You are listening to a MetalExpressRadio.com interview. Enjoy.
Hi, this is Mick Burgess, and I'm joined backstage at the Riverside in Newcastle by Phil Caivano from Mastermind. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm good.
It's been quite a while since you were last in Newcastle. It must be a good 20 years or so it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back here. I mean, for us, it always has to do with the promoters, but we do London so much, and the last couple of tours, we've been to a few of the other places, Wolverhampton and all that, but, it's always great to come back to places you've been to in the past and, just revisit and, take in the city like you asked before, go to the castle, and, get the day going.
Because I think when you come out to the provinces away from the capital, I think the fans sort of appreciate the music more. Because I think they get quite spoiled in London. So when you come out, you get the more hardcore
Me
fans
personally, I always love the smaller cities.
Yeah.
The smaller cities, I always feel is like we're the real fans. Not to take anything away from the bigger cities, but it's like, the smaller cities, people are hungrier for it. It's more enthusiastic, you know what I mean? It's just, they don't, maybe some of the bands don't come through these smaller cities as much, like you're right, the people in London London's a fantastic city and the fans are great, but it's such a big city, they get everything all the time,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've probably toured more in Europe than you have in your homeland, America. Why do you think the Europeans have sort of taken Monster Magnet to their hearts more than the Americans?
I don't know. I mean, America, I always hate to say it, but, things change so fast, and trends and music changes so fast. And I have to say that a lot of American bands, including us, got really hit by the whole internet craze, a bunch of years ago. So Europeans in general support the arts and support music, whereas Americans are more trendy. We'll do good. If we tour, we'll do okay, but it's harder to actually tour in America, because it's so big.
That's right, yeah.
Some of the drives will be 20 hours between drives. Here, it's like you can hit all the UK, then you can get down into Germany and you can get into France, you get these places relatively quickly. But, Monster Magnet really did, even though we're an American band, we got our start in Europe, and I think that's always been the case of why European fans and countries have supported us more than maybe America. And then, like I said, America can be very fickle. Yeah. It's like what's hot now, what's trendy now. Like we're just like an old rock band. You know what I mean?
But sometimes if you've been around long enough, you can sort of ride that storm. Then you come out the other end and you become a sort of cool classic band.
Well, that's what's happening in America now. We're now, after always being over here, every year after year coming to Europe, we're getting all this interest again in America, which is like, okay, fine, that's great. It took you this long, it took you this long, I'm getting old over here, so it's fine. As long as we can play music, it doesn't matter where we go to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, what can you fans expect from you on this tour? What sort of set list have you got lined up?
We're doing pretty much a mix of everything. We're throwing in one new song from the record Dave and I, and the guys just completed. And we'll throw in one new song just to get it out there, and that's what we're doing.
I mean, your last two records, Milking the Stars and Cobras and Fire, radically reworked Last Patrol and Mastermind.
Yeah.
I mean, why did you decide to sort of tackle two albums like that?
Dave got in him where he wanted to do that. He always felt like, he always talked about, reworking Super Judge and reworking some of these records because he's such a workaholic in a way, and in a mind where he, oh, what if this record was done that way? What if you had the chance to do these things? And, we had the chance to do it. And it was a lot of work, and at first, like, why? We just did those records. Like, why? Like the band guys, like, why? And then, like, well, because you can.
Yeah, and they're so different as well.
Yeah, and it was, and once we got into it, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do.
So what did you do? Did you just sort of strip them right back to the basic components and rebuild them back up in a completely different way?
That's exactly what we did. A couple of rearrangements, stripped it all back. Now, with Last Patrol, we kind of did that back to back. So it was like, and it really kind of started as maybe doing a remix of a couple of songs, for whatever, for a release of something. Not remix like, techno remix, but like different versions, alternative versions. And that led into doing the whole record like that, which led into, it was like, oh, let's backtrack and do Mastermind, because we had the recordings. They were right there in front of us. Why not do it? I have a studio back home that we were able to just do that. It was a lot of fun in the long run.
I know when you just released Last Patrol, and I interviewed Dave on a telephone interview, and he was saying, I really fancy redoing the album in a totally different way. And so the album had just come out, and he was already talking about what he was going to do.
We did it very quickly.
Yeah.
It was
quick. I didn't realize it was going to be that quick.
It was quick.
I mean, were there any songs in particular that were quite tricky to rearrange?
Not necessarily, because once you strip it back to the drums and maybe a little bit of bass, and really the drums and the vocal, you start you start to imagine it differently. Yeah. And you got to get everything else out of your head that was there. Maybe a couple of riffs, and then maybe a heavy riff that was all distorted and loud. What would that be like to play that clean and acoustic or whatever? That's what happened with one of the songs on Mastermind. I was just like, I was playing the riff on an acoustic guitar, which I never did, and he was like, "Wow, that sounds great. Let's do it like that." And then it all came, it just starts snowballing.
Yeah.
All these little ideas start snowballing, and then before you know it, it's done.
Because you mentioned the new album. How close is it finished?
It's finished, yeah.
Right. So
the mixes are just getting done. I think there's one more song to mix, and it's done.
So when can we expect to
I think at the end of the year or early next year, honestly and realistically.
And do you have a title for the album?
I don't have No, he doesn't have a title yet. There's always been just 49 working titles, but this record was a lot of fun. It's very aggressive, very straight ahead, very Detroit. Very Detroit.
I'm excited.
Back to... once again, back to some of our American roots. Like we did the space rock thing on the last couple records.
Yeah.
Being the huge Hawkwind fans we are, the Amandul fans, Groundhog fans, and that whole thing. I say Last Patrol was very, very influenced by space rock, and there'll always be elements of space rock and Monster Magnet stuff. But we brought it back to what we were influenced by as kids, which would be like the Detroit thing.
Yeah.
Stooges, MC5, Grand Funk Railroad. Bands like Granicus from Ohio, very, punchy American, that's really what it is. All I could say is the word Detroit always keeps coming to mind. Grand Funk Railroad.
So what's the new track you're playing tonight called?
It's called Mindfucker.
It must be a ballad then.
Yeah, it's a ballad.
I mean, because Dave's the main songwriter in the band. I mean, how does he convey his musical ideas to the rest of the band? Does he come in with demos? Does he sort of start jamming along and say, right, can you come in here?
You should hear some of these demos, right, Bob? Yeah. Yeah, he writes these skeletal pieces, you know what I mean? And he'll write a complete song, and he'll in his own demo version. In the old days, it was cassettes and then 4 tracks, and now he compiles a song, he brings it to us. And we start to play through it, and then we break it down. And this guy over here, Bob, gets a big workout. Goes through every imaginable anything you can imagine, and we build it up from the ground again. And it's really, really, that's how a lot of bands do it. And then, but Dave has one thing with Dave is you got to remember that he'll have that little piece and he'll have in his mind exactly what he wants, and we have to be like, how are we going to get that for him? Then you almost have to see in your head, think about how it's going to end up.
Yeah.
So, but then there's the experimental time between it where he wants to try a lot of different things. And so once Dave and Bob work out all the drum stuff, then I'll jump on board with bass, and I'll work out all these bass tracks with him. Then it jumps into guitars, and then it's before you know it.
That's it.
Here we go.
You make it sound so easy.
It's time to get in the studio.
Because you co-wrote The Duke of Supernature on Last Patrol and Dig That Hole on Mastermind.
Yeah.
So how do you and Dave work together? Is it sort of a similar sort of approach?
It's like this. Hey, Phil, what are you doing? I'm coming over. Hey, because I have a studio, and Bob has a studio, so we're fortunate in that respect where we're able to work on our stuff at any given time in a lot of ways. But with that particular stuff, it's like, we'll just throw the ideas out there, and just how he would approach me and us guys with the demos. I had a few things, and he's like, hey, do you have anything? And so I gave him a couple things I recorded. It's like, wow, it's either going to work or it doesn't by him being the main writer. He's been the main writer in this band forever, and but he's very open to different stuff. You know what I mean? And like, we put a lot into the arrangements and parts that may not have necessarily been there when he brought it to us. So everything just builds. It's like this big snowball. Then it starts with that, like the core. And I always believe that we have to keep that core there, because that's what's great about those songs. We always believe that, like, if you take a Mastermind song, you're able to sit down and strum it on a guitar, one guitar, and it sounds good. It's going to sound good if we all work on it, you know what I mean? But if it's been like, it doesn't really work right, you know, it goes back to, like, you know, simple rock and roll and simple blues. If it works, and it's, you know, most basic form. But that's how we do it.
Yeah, yeah. Because on Last Patrol, there was a great cover of Donovan's Three Kingfishers. And also on Cobras and Fire, you covered The Temptations' Ball of Confusion, back to the Detroit connection there.
Yeah.
Have you got any plans to sort of, are there any covers on this album that you're going to sort of give the Monster Magnet treatment to?
There's no covers on this record. Oh, there might be a download, there might be a bonus track of a Seeds cover.
All right.
That we did quite a while ago. And there might be, I think there's a down, I'm not 100% on that, but I think so. We've always, like, you know, always think about it, and so cover songs are really fun for us to do. You know, and like in the Ball of Confusion thing, that happened over, like, he's like, the music didn't match the song, but he was able to figure that into how we were playing this other riff, and it all just ended up working.
Well, Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Great to meet you, man.
Great chatting with you, and best luck with the show tonight for the rest of the tour.
Yeah, all right, man. Thanks a lot.